Hey everybody, this is Grace, and it is, my SUV says it's 92 degrees. When I was inside, looked on my cell phone, which I think is AccuWeather or the Weather Channel, one of the two, and it said that it was, the real feels like, how many things do they call it, was 107. The highest I've seen this year so far. Oh, and today's June 14th. The highest I've seen was 111. So, yeah. Okay, pardon the view, but I knew I was going to have to move up so the sun would be shaded by the house. Yeah. Because right now it's 3:46 p.m. And that's when the sun just hits right on me, sitting in the driveway. But anyway, I have been inside too much lately. You know, I was sick. Oh, well, it actually goes back a while, of course. You know, everything leads up to something. You know, quite often, something like this. But, and I was so ill. I was capable of doing a lot of things. You know, no problem, but I was tired a lot. And my tiredness come out in some of the strangest things. Like, I did not schedule to renew my driver's license. I don't know what it's like where you live. This is new to me, and I've been driving 47 years. That now, apparently it's been like this 4 years, for I don't know how many years. But we have to schedule an appointment to go do our driver's license renewal. Well, I was not well, and that was something that would have taken so much energy to just schedule the appointment. I'm serious. And when I was not well, when I was at the worst of it, and I would say what seemed like the worst of it. So I finally did schedule it, but it's for a month after my birthday. So my driver's license is expired, and you can't hear, if they have a phone number to call somebody, that you actually reach a person instead of, an automated service. And believe me, all the ones, they're different numbers, but they go to the same place. It's automated. No, you can't speak to someone. And I called, I think it was county and local government. Anyway, asking questions about, well, what happens if I drive? And they didn't say, it was kind of iffy. But then I looked online, and it wasn't connected, as far as I know. It wasn't connected to the DPS. But it said you could get fined $200 and jail time. I'm not going to do jail time just to drive, to go somewhere. You know, like just go to the grocery store or something. That would be awful expensive groceries. With time and money. You know what I'm saying? So no, I'm joking there. Of course I wouldn't do it anyway. So, but I did not know that, and Adam, he didn't know it, and nobody I knew it. So, no, I don't know if they did, but anyway. Okay, I have no idea why I said anybody I know, because I haven't talked to them about it. Oh my goodness, lately so much stuff has happened. Like, you know, to go back, like I was coming out here, and I had fallen. I fell asleep, took a long nap. This is something that's weird about this with me lately. I mean, it's been a few years, actually. Like I said, everything leading up is not being able to sleep a normal way at night, a normal amount of straight hours. But at this point, then it was that I was on 2 diuretics a day. Now I'm on 3, and the third is Lasix. So, yeah, like I have a choice. But I get up a lot, and then I can't get back to sleep, and so on and so forth. But then I wind up sleeping some during the day, especially if I watch TV in the room that I made that has a TV and a bed and a chair and on and on. If I'm watching TV, the next thing I know, I'm out. I'm like, and But anyway, when I woke up, I was cold, and the air conditioner is set on right now 72, but it says it's 74 in the house. And I think this year we're going to wind up having to turn the upstairs unit on. Also, we have two air conditioner heater units, one for downstairs, one for upstairs. We're going to have to turn it on so it's not like it's too hot. So far, we've had really good weather, so really good temps. But anyway, so I get up, and I've been doing this since I think it was the end of December and to early January. I kept having these weird things happen. It was awful aches and pains. I mean, not pains, but aches, body aches, from my lower jaw down to around my waist, but all the way to my fingertips. The part of down to my waist wasn't as bad as the rest of it. The hands and fingers and the jawline and all that. And it was just awful. It would sometimes last as long as an hour and a half. And I went to the ER. I don't know how many times. They didn't know what was going on. And I mean, they should have thought, because I eventually, did realize that part of it was that my body temperature was going really low, down to like 94, 94.0, 94.4. But I'm not a healthcare provider, so I shouldn't think that I figured it out. But I've said at the time, it seemed like I figured it out. I may have actually said I figured it out. But because I started wearing cardigans, and I always call them sweaters, but I wear them all the time pretty much now. And it made me think, when I lived in Florida, I lived in Florida more than once. I'm Texan, born and raised, but I moved around a lot earlier, in my I moved around after I got married when I was 18, and I moved around for like 20 plus years. It kind of tapered off. So, anyway, when I lived in Florida, I would say, why are all these people wearing sweaters and coats even? Just because the temperatures the highs are in the 70s. Youth, come on. Now that I'm there, of course I was tested. But yeah, since January, and since January is when I figured it out that I have to wear these sweaters, or I am just cold. It's only the upper torso also. That's it. And, but later on, I've started to wonder about that, and then I saw it. I don't know if it's it, but they could have been what they called silent heart attacks. Don't take my word on it. I am not a voice of authority on anything, but I read it online, and I was like, all those aches that I was having, that could have been one after another. Really? But I don't know. The doctor that I had, I told him back then, I said that my body temperature was so low, and he said, it could have been that you were dehydrated. So he's my age, and so I don't know. I really don't know. But anyway, I do know that I get cold, and I do know that my body temperature since then, I think once or twice it has gone down to like in the 90, like around 95 something. But as far as I remember, maybe once back down to 94 point something, but I haven't had those aches, those weird aches. But, well, I just went stream of shock consciousness as much as I could. Okay, so were you able to follow me? I get a lot of flack for, well, I used to. I don't get any comments anymore of that. Not a lot of flack either. Just some, comment every once in a while from somebody in a certain genre. Some people in that. And it's true. This is how I do them, and that's how I've always done them. And I probably always will. So, I'm not snubbing my nose at somebody. I'm just saying this is who I am. And this is how I am. You know, I don't see myself changing it. I really don't. So just do more of a stream of consciousness, go with the flow, that kind of thing. I mean, I do, lately I have been doing something a little different, but that's because I'm just curious. It deals with the AI and all that, AI overviews. And it's just something from me. I decided it. Ooh, it's getting windy all of a sudden. Yeah. Anyway, what else? Oh, I do want to say that I am much better now. I'm feeling so much better, and I don't want to, you know, people say the test fate. I don't believe in that. I don't believe you can test fate. You know, you can't jinx yourself or anything like that. I just don't believe in that. But I will say it. You know, I don't want to test fate. And then I will say, even though I don't believe it. But anyway, I'm distracted here. Okay. So anyway, I'm feeling much better. I have, I don't want to be real negative, but I didn't appreciate my experiences with 2 cardiologists, but the one at the hospital was really good. The ER, when I finally wound up going to the ER, that was in March. Well, my physical therapist at the time said, you need to call your doctor. And I did. Nobody returned my call. And I went to an urgent care, and there was a nurse there. I don't know what her position was, but she came out, and there was nobody in the waiting room at that time because she had already brought them all back. And she looked at me and she said, we're not going to take you here. You're going straight to the hospital. She said, are you capable of driving? And I said, yes. She goes, we believe it's your heart. They hadn't even seen me. They just heard of my symptoms. And so I went straight to the I called one of the hospitals that I've been in the ER at, and actually I had been admitted to last year for a day, for 24 hours observation, but I don't know what happened there. But anyway, and I asked them because I was just stunned when she told me that, and I walked back to get in my SUV, and it was so taxing for me to walk that far by that point. And so I just called that hospital. They connected me to a nurse, and the nurse, I said, which hospital would I go to? Because the doctor there had told me one time, he said, you're coming here, but you're going to the wrong hospital. I said, why hasn't anybody told me that before? He said, here we don't have what the other ones have. I said, and I looked at him, I said, why has anybody told me that before now? Because I've been there several times. He just looked at me like he was a bit shocked. Well, hello. But anyway, the woman on the phone, the nurse, I said, which hospital should I go to? And she said, Google it. Really, I'm serious, just like that. Google it. I said, what did you just say? Oh, here it was, I was being told to go to the hospital, and I told her that, and she said, Google it. She said, well, I said, no, I want to know your name. And she wouldn't give it to me. I said, what is your name? I said, you're saying that to someone who's being told to go to a hospital because it's probably their heart? You're going to say, Google it? And she started to get something, and I just said, I got your name. Goodbye. And I hung up, and I called another place. And it was a guy, and I told him what happened. She said, oh, ma'am, the hospital you need to go to is this one, on this one, and that, like that. What's wrong with that woman? See, I don't want to be real negative and talk like that. But my experience was that one doctor, that day when I went to the ER, he was so good. He was a cardiologist, and he was just on task. He was there. He wasn't smart aleck. He wasn't, saying, oh, I want to make a lot more money, so we're going to put you through all this. And that's what has happened since then. And I'm serious. I don't want to be negative, but I'm tired of that. I had enough. You know, when you ask a doctor, a cardiologist, I did. I asked the cardiologist, well, is it medically necessary for me to do that? You know, this big expensive test. I've got great insurance, Seriously, I wouldn't be paying much. So, but I'm not there to make them money and be put through some serious procedures, surgical procedures, just so they can make money. No, I'm not there for that. I'm not on this planet for that purpose. And if you think I'm cynical, I used to work for surgeons. 3 different types, ortho, spinal, neuro, over years when I was a career student. So I have a little bit of a clue. I'm not going to generalize, but whenever I say something like that, is it medically necessary for me, then I say it again, for me to do it right now? Well, I'd recommend it. Or he wouldn't even say, well, he said, I'd recommend it. And Adam called him by accident. I took Adam with me this time. And Adam says, well, they've said this, and this. You know, and he was talking about, he put it more as a hypothetical. And the doctor basically screwed himself. He basically told off what he was doing, the whole thing. I mean, I already knew why he was saying, I'd recommend it. Of course you'd recommend it. You make a lot of money. I'm not born yesterday. He was the doctor was definitely born closer to yesterday than I was. And I guess he thought his generation had invented that because we were not smart enough to figure it out. No, I'm being sarcastic because I don't think in terms of generations. When people do that, it really bothers me. That's quite often it's stereotypes. You can read a lot of it. How many of us have read this? You go, there's well, generation so-and-so, or this generation that so-and-so, you know, just whatever generation. They do all this and they do all that. And when is it ever really positive? It says negative stuff. And to me, it's like, you know, when I taught at college and university, I'm a social and behavioral scientist. I think of your social studies teacher. Yeah. But I could teach, you know, either one. I could teach more than one. I could teach more than those two. Because I was a career student, like I said. And this is what I taught, you know, was against stereotypes. And to me, one of the things this would be is ageism. Seriously. You say, well, oh, the baby boomers, I say that a lot. I'm a baby boomer. Baby boomers are, they do this and that. It's always negative. It's always something like baby boomers, you know, with the baby boomers should give up saying this or that or the other. Why should we give up anything? Why should we change just to fit in with other generations? No. You know, not all of us do that, and this, that, or the other. I am definitely going stream of consciousness. Okay. Wow. I go from A to Z, don't I? But anyway, yeah, you know, the problem that I had there, I just got tired of it. And the first one, I guess he thought he was going to be a dictator, and no, you're not going to be a dictator with me. The first one that they sent me, well, I was sent to one before I went to the hospital. But that wasn't just that day. It was like, I don't know, a month or two before then. It was suggested. And anyway, this guy, you know, I had just taken an EKG. Like less than 2 weeks or less. And he said, you know, the office manager, she was filling in. She wanted to see what her employees go through. So she was doing what an MA usually does. And she was, you know, checking me in and inside the room. And she said that he's going to run an EKG. That's why we have all this equipment here. I said, well, I just took one 2 weeks ago. And there was nothing wrong with me. And even that doctor, is my doctor, he did it. And he said, I'm surprised. There was nothing wrong with you. They're not telling me why they're surprised. I think it was because I had been complaining, you know, not to the cardiologist, but that doctor that I had been complaining for 2 years about weight gain. and which I had figured was probably water weight. But I'm not medical, so I'm not a guru. I shouldn't have to figure it out. That's their job. And I don't know if I figured it out. So all that. Don't listen to me. Anyway, so he had recommended this cardiologist. And anyway, she was like, I don't know. I think he will still want his own test. I said, why is that? I mean, I just had it for 2 weeks. Wasn't being mean, wasn't being sarcastic. I said it in just a curious voice, because I was curious. Because I've heard stuff like that before on different things. They'll want their own test. And just the year before, I'd heard that from a different kind of specialist. I want my own test. Well, no, you don't need your own test. And that was a CT when I just did one. I never went back to her. Adam was with me when I went in that one. Oof. But anyway, back to this cardiologist, the first one. And he came, well, she went back and asked him. I said, if you would, ask him. Well, I think she said she was going to ask him. And I said, she was going to tell him. I said, well, ask him if he says yes, he needs his own. I said, ask him why. I'm curious why they would need one that soon. And I really was curious why they would need a new one in just 2 weeks, when that one that I did 2 weeks before showed nothing was wrong. It was great. I mean, come on. I want an answer. I'm not playing dumb. I wanted an answer. Well, she come back and she said, well, he said it's okay that he doesn't have to run the EKG. Okay, let's see there. So he walks in, and he's a young, it doesn't matter what age they are, okay, but he walked in, and he said, was, so much like underneath it all was some kind of fury, and like I was going, well, let me tell you what he said. He said, well, I'm going to tell you right now, I can't believe nothing's wrong with your EKG, and so I'm going to run much more extensive tests. Just like that. And I'm looking at him and I'm thinking, you think so? Because I don't allow people to talk to me like that. No. I mean, it was very obvious, and he was making it very obvious how he saw himself in this transaction here. And he made it very clear. And he said, and I'm going to change your medications. No, in graduate school, one of the things I learned, because I studied to become a counselor, but they said that it's the same for patients, health, mental and physical, that the patient, in mental it's client, in medical it's patient and client. They are the focus, is not healthcare provider centered, is patient, or in this case, in health, like I said, client centered. But no, apparently he thought it was all about him and his ego. He was going to change him. I mean, I am serious. I've never heard. Actually, I had last year, I had her, and it was a woman, and she put her finger in my face. I think I mentioned that in another video. And I was so in shock, because there's a part of me that thought, thinks now that I might have bitten it. Not that I might have, I should have stuck her finger in my face. And first visit, and she checked my phone to see, she came up with some lame excuse for checking my phone, one of those things that you do to check your diabetes, see if I had it on there. Yeah, lame excuse, woman. But she was checking to see if I was videoing it. And then when she saw that I wasn't, she went all crazy. She went crazy. Stuck her finger in my face, wagged it, and said, I'm going to tell you what to do, and you will mind me. Just like that. She was my age, and Adam was with me, and she turned her finger to his face, and she said, you will make sure that she does. And Adam put his hands up like, whoa, watch it, and I think he and I both were so stunned. I mean, really. That was last year. And no, and then she did it again, and I guess he was thinking that, it was just, we were stunned. We were just, both of us, that he was thinking that I really wanted to see her, and that, he would suffer through and not make waves. And I was thinking he wanted me to see her, that he was going to say, well, you just should have stuck to it, or we, then, and so on and so forth. You know how these things just go down the road. But I guess in a way I was kind of curious. And then she said, she screamed out that I have the worst insurance ever. I said, actually, I was told that I have the best insurance, and it is really good. Okay, seriously. And, but apparently she wasn't going to, what I'm thinking is she wasn't going to make, she was the one that said she wants her own CT. Anyway, I don't know how much they make off of those, or if they make anything. But she made it well known that she wasn't going to make enough money. I'm not here on this planet. Didn't you hear me say that? Anyway, so then this one, the first one, this doctor, they don't know. They're not, they know of them, as I'm learning, but they really don't know what goes on behind. Of course they don't. One's the patient, especially the patients by themselves. But that woman disproved that, right? But yeah, the one that he was going to run more extensive tests because he just doesn't believe. It's right there in front of your face. And he just didn't believe it. Yeah. So I already had that red flag. There, and that more extensive test, plural, not one, test. Then that's on the end. I don't think you can hear it, but it's got to be written. But it was like, So I knew when this newest one said this about the test, I said, is it medically necessary right now? Or just is it medically necessary, which I asked first, I think. He said, I'd recommend it. I said, that's a closed question. It requires a yes or no. It doesn't require I'd recommend it, because I had looked it up and it's like up to $35,000. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be paying because I have great insurance, but that's what they would be billing, my insurance, you see. And if something come up and they said, well, they shouldn't have done that, who's going to be paying for it? Me. So, but I used to do medical billing. So I did medical billing, surgery scheduling, office management, interim office management, that kind of thing when I was a career student for those surgeons. So, I'm not, And so then I finally got all the way back around. But in the meanwhile, I was feeling so much better. And you know that expression, if it ain't broke, don't fix it? Well, I told that doctor that he did not, that surgeon, not surgeon, but the cardio, he was not happy. I had a sneezer, but I told him that the time before then. The time before I had Adam with me, which was the last time I saw him. And I said, have you heard the Southern expression, if it ain't broke, don't fix it? Okay. And I didn't say it sarcastically like that. I said it nicely. And he didn't like that. Because what he actually even said to me was that there are other things that we could do for what they had done. What was it called? So many tests, I'm going to run more extensive tests. It's something, another test, cardio, something. Endo, I don't know. But, and the guy who did it didn't act like, they're trained not to. But I just, from what the guy said, it was like really good vibes. And then this guy, all of a sudden, we need to do this, we need to do that. They find, and I don't like to be like conspiracy theorist, but I'd already been warned. You see, I'd already not warned, but had seen a red flag. The other one said, I'm going to run more extensive tests. Because of his ego? Okay, this test right here, the one that you have, says nothing is wrong. That's the basic one, the starting, where they start off. This is what I heard, got told. Don't listen to me. I'm not a voice of authority, but yeah. And you're going to doubt it just because you doubt it. And then you're going to say, I'm going to run more extensive. You're going to ask me, and I'm going to say no. I'm going to say the same thing. I'm going to say, is it medically necessary at this moment? Because one of them they want to do, it means they'd be in my heart. Go inside and scope, what do they call it, cardiogram, and check out my heart and all this. I'm not here so you can make that money and be in my heart. If it ain't broke, don't fix it means, yeah. Is it working okay? Does it need to be done right now? And like I said, Adam got him, but by accident, in a way. And found out that the guy was basically trying to get money. So it wasn't something, the surgeon was basically trying to make money. I mean, it shouldn't be that difficult at the same time to see it. We're not born yesterday. Adam's older than I. So, And the whole thing of dodging the yes or no answer, I've seen how many times in my life. I used to just call it double talk BS, and or sometimes they wouldn't even answer. They find a way not to answer, change the topic. Just walk out of the room. You ask someone. One time, Adam was with me in the ER, a different, whole different system. The year before, in 2023, and he said, I went there 3 different times, and he was with me the second time in the room after the various people come in and out, and he looked at me, he said, did they say anything? Anything of any worth? And I said, no. He said, really, they did not. No questions will be answered. They're not going to tell. They were not going to tell me all 3 times what was the diagnosis. No matter how much I said, well, what's going on? What this? Nope. They did not think I deserved to know. Oh boy, stream of consciousness. But expect more videos kind of like this. Maybe not. Every once in a while, I get it in my head that I want to make a video like this. August will be 11 years that I've been making videos. If I put this on the right channel, yeah, I have more than one channel in 11 years, you betcha. But, yeah, 11 years. And every once in a while, I'll put a video up like this. And I really want to get, to settle, making videos on a regular basis. It's just never happened. Not for long, because life, I think a lot of people know how that is. Life can get in the way. You're determined, especially around this age. People I know. Why do I say people I know? I'm just saying. But yeah, you want to get on one track. You want to stay, one track mind, in a good way. And life says, I have other plans for you. I have other plans. Anyway, I'm going to wrap this up. This is probably really long. I'll talk to you on another video. Bye.